So last time we have covered a few of the things. Okay, so we have covered basic statements of how we can output certain things to the system. Okay, so we have seen the alert command. Then we have seen how to change the DOM with the help of document.write. Then we have also seen how to show output in the console. Okay, so this is the thing that we are going to use majority of the times for debugging purposes. Okay, then we have seen how to declare and initialize a variable. Then we have seen if and else, if statement, else statement, and if else ladders, nested if else. Then we have seen switch cases, okay, with break statements. Then we have seen different looping statements like for loop, while loop, do while loop. Okay, and finally I showed you what is the difference between let and where. Okay, so we can use let also and where also to declare a variable. If you want to declare the variable in a particular scope only, then we use let. Okay, and if you want it to be declared in the global scope, then we use where. Okay, so today let's continue ahead. Okay, so obviously we can create another folder and start today's work, but I found Codepen to be much better in doing JavaScript. Okay, I will show you why. Okay, so basically the problem with Visual Studio Code was because of the live server. Whenever we try to see the console, there are some errors coming, maybe because of the extension. But then we have to open the file manually by double clicking the index file. But then I have to manually refresh each and every time, right? So that is a bit of a pain. So what I have today, what we are going to try, you can try anything, you can do Visual Studio Code also, but today let's try this. Okay, so we are going to try Codepen. So it is almost the same. Okay, so we have this editor where there are three sections. Basically there is the HTML, CSS, and JS, and you will see the page output at the bottom. Okay, so here you can start typing your contents. Okay, so let's say for example I say hello. Okay, if I save it, you can see it automatically refresh, so I don't have to manually refresh it. Okay, so that is why I'm trying to use this. Okay, so let's, for a change, let's try to use this. Okay, so now I have an HTML file, a CSS file, and a JS file. Okay, so now I want to include this particular JS file inside my HTML file. Okay, so usually what we do in Visual Studio Code is we create the file, so we know exactly what is the name of the file, right? But here we do not know the name of the file, so let's find out. So here you can see about, if you go to come over here, you can see the name of the file is script.js. Okay, so we can include that. We can come you can include this anywhere in the head or in the body, but it is preferred that you include all your JavaScript file towards the end. Okay, just before the body closing of the body. Okay, so here you can add script tag. Inside that you can add source, and inside that you will write the name of the file, that is script.js. Okay, so once I save it, now this particular file, that is JS file, is going to be active. Okay, so let's see, let me just zoom in a little. Okay, so let's check whether it is really working or not. Let's do a console.log And always remember, whenever you start writing JavaScript, you should always check whether it is properly linked or not. Okay, so I've just done this. Okay, and obviously it's a console log. Okay, so you cannot see the output on the web page. You have to open the console. Okay, so you can see in Codepen you have a tab for console also. Okay, so you can just click on it and it will open the console, and you can resize it a little, and you can see I am getting high. Okay, that means this particular code is working. Okay. Okay, so we are all set. Now we can start, we can continue ahead. Okay, so the last part of JavaScript, the 5 elements that we have talked about, in that the last part was functions. Okay, so let's look at how we deal with functions in JavaScript. Okay, now basically, why do we need functions? Whenever we have some code which is to be reused, okay, so we try to put it inside a function so that we can again and again reuse it. Okay, like for example, you have to add numbers. Okay, so usually when you want to add two numbers, you will simply write a plus b, right? But let's suppose you want to add such multiple two numbers, then every time doing let's say 5 plus 6, then 6 plus 8, then some, you are repeating the code. So always remember, you should try to avoid repetition of code. So how to do that? Creating functions. Okay, so you can create functions, and by creating functions you are combining a part of the block of the code into one block, and then you're reusing it whenever you require it. Okay, so let's see how to define functions in JavaScript. Okay, so whenever you want to define any function, you have to start with the keyword function. Okay, so function, then the name of the function, whatever you want to give. Okay, so let's say my function. Okay, so this my function is the name of the function. You can put any name over here, then round brackets. Okay, so this is where the parameters are going to go, then curly brackets to define the block. Okay, so basically this is the function that I've created. Okay, inside this, let me just to check whether it is working or not. So let me just do console.log, and just let's say we write my function. Okay, so this is my function. Now if I save it, okay, and if I wait for it, you can see nothing actually appears in the console. Okay, so my function, this text should have been there, but it is not there. Okay, the reason is the function is not executed unless you call it. Okay, so when always remember, the function will not execute unless you call the function. Okay, so now to call the function, it is very simple. Just put the name and the brackets, that's it, and you get the you have called the function. And you can see, as soon as I do that, now the console.log, this particular thing is running. Okay, so this particular function is running. Now the advantage is you can do this any number of times without repetition of the code, and you can see if I put it 4 times, it prints 4 times. Okay, so that is the advantage of this. Okay, so now let's see how to as such, right now this function is of no use because it is just doing a console log. But let us see something which is much more useful. Okay, so let's say we want to say hello to to the person who is entering. Okay, so let's say we give a name, let's say Shibu. So your functions should say hello Shibu. Okay, so for that, let's say we call the function as say hello. Okay, you can name it anything you want, and once you do that, then you want to print something on the console, right? So you do console log, and I want to say hello, 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 right? But now the function should get some input. Okay, so to get that input, you have to pass some parameters inside this round brackets. Okay, so let's see, let's give a input parameter like name. Okay, so this name is now available inside this block. Okay, so I want to add it to the end of hello. Okay, so I want to add it at the end. Okay, so let's add it to the end. Let's after that, whenever you want to add two strings or concatenate two strings, you use the operator plus. Okay, so you do plus and you say name. Okay, and as soon as I do that, now you can see it is working. Okay, so now I want to call this function. Okay, so now how to call it? Again the same, say hello, right, inside that bracket. Now here you will have to provide the parameter. Okay, so what is the parameter? The parameter is, let's say, Shibu. Okay, so when I do that, you can see now it is saying at the end, if you can see, this is the latest output. Okay, so in the at the end you can see it is saying hello Shibu. Unfortunately there is no space in between. So now to add a space, what you can do is either you put the space over here. Okay, so once you do this, you can see now I get hello Shibu. Okay, or else you can also do this. Okay, so you can do two plus symbols, add quote and add a space over here. Okay, so this is also fine, but obviously this is a bit more complicated. It now that completely depends on you. Okay, so which method you like. Okay, so you can see this is the use of passing a parameter to the function. Okay, so now the advantage is you can just duplicate this, paste it down, and you can change the names. Let's say, so you can now change the you can call this function any number of times and it is going to run the same code but with different input parameters. Okay, you can see, so it is saying hello Shibu, hello Arun. So everything is similar to C programming. If you have, if you understand C programming better. Okay, so let's see how to provide multiple parameters. Okay, so let's define another function. Let's call it function, let's say add. Okay, and I want to create a function that will add two numbers. Okay, so I have add, and here I am going to do let's say a comma b. Okay, so this is how you provide two different inputs. Okay, so like this you can provide any number of input parameters to your function. Okay, so here I'm providing two inputs, a comma b, and here you can simply do a simple console.log and just print the output of a plus b. Okay, and this will just give you the output of a plus b, but obviously again this will not run because obviously you will have to what do you say, call it. Okay, so to call it you will just add the function add, then you will give the numbers. Let's say I want to add 2 comma 3. Okay, and you can see it should give me 5. Okay, so you can see the output here, so it gives me 5. So add 2 comma 3. So now the advantage is I can again copy and paste the code and you can change the values over here, 4 and 3 and let's say 7 and 2, and I get different values for different inputs. Okay, so you can see the advantage here is that you define the function once and you get the out. You can change, can use the function any number of times with different inputs. Okay, so this is the importance of functions. Okay, and now let us see how we can return something, or basically now here what I'm trying to do is I'm giving input 2 and 3 it is coming over here, and then it is displaying the output here itself. Okay, so in most of the cases we don't want that. What we want is the function will do something and return the data to the caller. Okay, and it is the responsibility of the caller to handle the output part. Okay, so usually that is what we normally do. And always remember, whenever you design functions, a single function should not have multiple responsibilities. Okay, so this every function should have one basic responsibility or small responsibilities. Okay, so like in our case, you can see this function is used to add two numbers. Okay, so why are you giving additional responsibility of displaying it also? Okay, so basically it should have been doing only this much, a plus b. Why is the function also doing console log? Okay, so that is wrong. As a good practice, what you should do is you should never uh, do multiple things inside a function. You should try not to do multiple things in the function, right? And instead of that, what you can do is you can do something called as return. Okay, same like in C. So you do return, and when you do return, what happens is basically what you're saying is you're doing add 2 comma 3. So 2 comes over here and 3 comes over here. That is A and B. So A is 2, B is 3. And then you do A plus B, that becomes 5. And that 5 is returned by the function. Okay, so now when it is returned, right now nothing is happening, because when a function returns something, you have to store it somewhere. Otherwise, it's of no use, right? So let us store it somewhere. Let's create a variable, let x is equal to, okay. So you can see now I have stored this thing, uh, uh, the return, whatever is returned by add, into x. Okay, so once this is done, now we can see the output. So we can say console.log. Okay, console.log. And now here what we can do is we can say the sum is, okay, now I can do this, and then at the end I can add x to it. Okay, so once I do this, now you will see the difference. Okay, so now you can see the importance of removing the responsibility of displaying the output from the function to the program. Okay, so now the advantage is you have the freedom to decide how you want to display the output. Okay, so basically the function is only giving you the answer. Okay, it is not telling you how to display it. So here I have used this particular text. You may use something else. Okay, you may use sum equal to. Okay, so you can see the flexibility that we get once we reduce the responsibility of a function. Okay, so usually whenever you deal with functions, you should remember one thing is you should not tell the function to take an input, or you should not ask the function to show an output. Okay, it's basically to uh, no, to do an operation. Okay, so do something that that will give you a result. Okay, final result, and at the end you can do the output by yourself. Okay, so something like this. Okay, so any doubt still here? Okay, so basically so these things are very easy because it is similar to C programming. So if you are good with C, then this will be almost similar. In fact, once we switch to PHP, there also everything is going to remain the same. So you will see everything is similar to C, whether it is PHP or JavaScript or or C, they everything is almost the same except few keywords that change. Okay, so once this is done, let's look into something slightly different. Okay, so this is called as anonymous functions. Okay, so this is very famous, very very much used in whenever we use JavaScript. Okay, so now what is anonymous functions? Anonymous functions are nothing but functions without a name. Okay, so basically you can see in this particular function definition, this is the name of the function. Okay, so add is the name of the function. But if we have a function which does not have a name, then that will be called as an anonymous function. Okay, so let's see an example. Let's convert this function into an anonymous function. Okay, so I can do something like this. Okay, I will just remove the name from here, and you can see I get an anonymous function. But now I want to, because it's an anonymous function, I cannot, what do you say, use it directly. Okay, it has to be used somewhere. uh, you know uh, Basically I have to use it along with some other functions. Okay, so I will show you one such examples. Okay, so for but if you want to make this work, you just have to add round brackets in the front of it. Okay, so you can see I have added this. Okay, and once you do that, now this is a function definition. Okay, but obviously you cannot call an anonymous function. Okay, you must have understood why I cannot call an anonymous function, because to call a function you need a function name, and an anonymous function does not have a name, right? So then there will be a common question, then what is the use of an anonymous function? Okay, so many of the times what happens is you have certain commands or certain you know what do you say, keywords or functions inside which you want to do multiple statements. Okay, or multiple commands or multiple lines of code. So now there, whenever you have multiple lines of code you want to run and you want to club everything together, you will start using functions. Okay, now uh, for doing that, obviously you can use a normal function also, but that particular function will be used only once. Okay, because it is tied up with that particular sub function. Okay, I will show you an example. We will come back to this little later once I show you the example. Let me just comment this out. Okay, so let me comment everything out and let's come down over here and let's go to the a simple example. Okay, so I will show you the use of this once I let me okay, let me show you this one. So let's do set interval. Okay, so now this command, this is a function which runs a particular code for after every certain duration. Okay, so let's say for example I just want to run a particular code here. Okay, after every 1 second. Okay, so if that is what you want to do, then first of all let's define a function. Okay, function, let's say display. Okay, so I have let me display name. Okay, so my name of the function is display name. Okay, and then here I'm just going to do a console.log, and here I'm going to display my name. Okay, so I'm displaying my name. So I want to run this function every 1 second. Okay, so for that you can use this particular command, that is set interval. Here the first parameter should be the function that you want to call again and again. Okay, so for that I will put over here the name of the function. That is my first thing, right? And then it is the duration after what duration you want to run. Okay, so duration is in milliseconds, so I'm typing as 1000 milliseconds means after every 1 second. Okay, so after every 1 second you want to run this particular command. Okay, so you can see it is continuously printing Shibu. Okay, so let me just change this to Shibu Raj and just wait for it. So you can see now after every 1 second it is printing Shiburaj. Okay, so you can see this is how you can use the set interval command. Okay, so now in this case you can see this particular display name may be used only by this particular command. Okay, it may not be used by any other anything in the program, right? In that case what you can do is you can replace this with a what do you say, anonymous function. Okay, so in that case all you have to do is take this from here and put it over here and remove the name. Okay, so once you do this, okay, so now you can see it starts working again. But just to show you the difference, let me change the name back to Shibu. Okay, and you can see it still works. Okay, so now it is printing Shibu after every 1 second. Okay, so you can see what is the use of an anonymous function. Okay, so anywhere where you need a callback. Okay, so this thing is called as a callback. So you can obviously define a function and then use a callback to call it, or you can use an anonymous function there. Okay, so that will also uh, help you in creating solving this such kind of problems. Okay, so this is the use of basically anonymous functions. Okay, any doubts in anonymous function? Only thing you have to remember is when you handle anonymous function, just remove the name, function name, and that becomes then anonymous function. And obviously you cannot call an anonymous function separately. Okay, so that thing you have to understand, that you cannot call an anonymous function. Like in this case you can see I had a add function and then I can call that function any number of times. Okay, but this is not possible when you are using anonymous function. Okay, so okay, so next let's see, once we have this, let me just remove this part. Let's come back to here. Okay, so now I have this particular function, but it is not going to give me any output as such because uh, it is an anonymous function, so I cannot call it, right? So to use an anonymous function repeatedly or basically multiple times, what you have to do is you have to store it inside a variable. Okay, so that is the best part of anonymous functions, that you can store a function inside a variable. Okay, so let me show you how. So you can use let, and let's say y is equal to this particular thing. Okay, so you can see this is the function that I'm trying to this particular function is now stored in the variable y. Okay, so now I want to call this function y. Okay, basically I want to run this particular function. Now how to run it? Simple, you just use, let me remove this. Okay, and you just use the name of the variable y. Okay, and you find out how many parameters you have to send to the anonymous. Okay, so it will be, let's say 3,4, and that will give you the answer. Okay, so you can see it gives me the same answer without even using a function name. Okay, so you can see now uh, once you assign this to a variable name, now the variable name itself becomes somewhat like a function name. Okay, so if I would have named this as add, okay, so this would have been same as the previous case. Okay, so you can see it gives me the same result. Okay, so that is the use of an anonymous function. Okay, yes, Salik, right. Okay, so next, the last part is, basically, let's suppose we have uh, there is something called as a self invocable functions. Okay, so that means uh, till now whatever we have seen is whenever we create a function, then you have to call the function, then only the function works, otherwise the function does not work. Okay, but there is a technique in JavaScript where you can create a function and at the same time you can call it also. Okay, so that is called as self invocable functions. Okay, so let me show you how it is done. Okay, so first of all you have to create a anonymous function. Okay, so let's create an anonymous function first. So for that you can create round brackets. Inside that you can say function. Okay, and this is the syntax of it. And then here you can let's say simply do console.log, and here easy. Okay, so I'm just printing easy, right? Now if I save this, you can see nothing is actually displayed on the console. Okay, so all the things above it is when I was typing, so that's why this error is there. But after that you can see there is no output because this function is an anonymous function, but it has to be called, otherwise this will not work. Okay, but if you want to create this particular function as a self invocable function, then all you have to do is do this. Okay, so all you have to do is add one more round brackets. Okay, to the end of the previous round brackets. Okay, so the first round brackets will have the function definition and the second round bracket will be calling the function. Okay, so you can see as soon as I do that, I get easy. Okay, so this is how it works. This is how self invocable function works. And if you understand this particular concept, this is how jQuery framework and many of the frameworks work behind the scenes. Okay, they use this particular technique of self invocable functions. Okay, any doubts still here? As such, there is no advantage, but it is just to show that this option is there. Okay, but we don't use anonymous functions like this. Okay, so that is just to show you a demo. Actually, the way we used it in set interval, that is the real way of using it. Okay, so in that case, you know that it is not going to be reused again. So that's why there is no need for a name, function name there. Okay, any other doubts? Okay, so let's look at the last variation of functions before we finish this. So let's say set interval. Okay, so I want to run a particular command. That command is going to be an anonymous function. So to create an anonymous function, I will do function, then round brackets, then curly brackets. Okay, so you can see this is my way of defining. Okay, and after that curly braces and before that round bracket, I will add the delay. Okay, so what is the time delay at which I want to run the code? Okay, so I want to run it after every 1000 milliseconds or 1 second. Okay, and here I'm going to do console.log. Let's do a high. Okay, and let's wait for it, and it should start running. Okay, so you can see it says hi hi hi. Okay, so it is working perfectly. Now the last part of functions is called as arrow functions. Okay, so you can see in case of anonymous functions, uh, you can reduce the complexity, or you can reduce the number of lines of code by removing or shortening this a little bit. Okay, now it will be a bit confusing at the beginning, but it is important to understand this particular syntax, because many of the resources that you will see, you will have this arrow syntax everywhere, because everybody is using this particular syntax. Okay, now how to use it? It is very simple. Once you understand this particular block, how to write anonymous functions, only thing you have to do is remove this keyword, that is function. Okay, and then between the round brackets and the curly brackets, you just add an arrow. That's it. Okay, so this is your arrow function. It is that simple. You can see now it starts printing again. Okay, so now the advantage of arrow function is it becomes much more shorter. And if there is a simple single line of code, then you can even remove this curly braces. That is the beauty of arrow. Okay, so you can remove this curly braces also. Okay, so you can see it makes the code a single line code. Okay, so that is the advantage of using uh, arrow functions. Okay, so if there are I think if there are any queries that you can ask. Okay, so this is it for functions. Okay, okay, then we have done with the timings. Okay, thank you everyone. See you tomorrow at 9.